Good morning. It's 6:52. I'm ready to get out of my new tent. I slept pretty neat. There was some weird animal, never heard it before. Every time I tried to scare it, it went like it was actually scared. We have a 9 mile, is it 9 miles? 9 mile uphill. I don't think it's very steep. I think it's like a 9 mile gradual uphill. At least I hope so. We've got 19 miles to the Olali Resort, which doesn't have any food, like cooked food, but it has maybe snacks and stuff. So Sonic and I are gonna meet there. He already was ready to go when I was still eating my breakfast. He came down here and maybe I'll catch up to him, but I don't think so, you know. I mean, his name is Sonic for a reason. But we are gonna meet at Olali Resort. So, getting ready. And as you can see, somehow, I fit my tent right in this bush. And look, it looks like a little UFO. It is 7:11. And it is time for some more hiking. It is cloudy and it is foggy. Ooh, hello. Cloudy and foggy. It's also a little chilly. We're going up into the mountains. It's windy. Looks like it's gonna be cold today. I was thinking about maybe talking about how I met each of my amazing family members and maybe my first impression. I don't know if that's interesting to you guys, but I'll start off with Bougie and I'll go throughout the different ones throughout the day. Hopefully that's interesting. So with Bougie, the first time I met him was at Aqua Dolce at the I don't remember, the Serenity Oasis, I guess. Of course, he was wearing a Jolly Gear shirt. I'm not a fan of Jolly Gear. I usually don't like it because, not the patterns, I like the patterns, but I don't like that everybody wears them. On the AT, after trail days, there were so many people wearing them and it just looked like a little cult. But Bougie has this purple one that not a lot of people wear. And it looks really good on him. Anyway, I met him and he was talking about, I think, ice axes. And I was like, did you not have an ice axe? He's like, no. And I remember, wow, a little bit of an attitude. And then I was like, whatever. So that was it. And then the second time I met him was at a water source. He was talking to this woman, I think named One Call. Or last call, I think One Call. And he was just getting water and eating his dinner before hiking on. And it was a much better interaction. Very friendly. We got along. And then what happened after? Oh, and then the third time I met him was at the, what is it called? Wow, so it took me like forever to remember, but I met him at Hiker Town, and I had planned to stay there for like 1.5 days because supposedly there was gonna be a nice barbecue. But then it was so hot, it was so boring, and I was sitting next to him and we just talked, got along, and then I asked him, hey, do you want to hike the aqueduct with me tonight? And he's like, yeah. And that was it. After that, we were just like a good team. And I did want to mention, like, I had talked about recently finding the right hiking partner and how it's hard. And with Bougie, it was the same thing. Like, so enjoy hiking with him. We have the same idea of hiking miles. We do hike different during the day. He takes more pauses. But what I really liked about him was he really wanted to camp with me at night. And, but again, he wasn't doing the entire hike, right? So couldn't find the right partner. So that's the story of how I met Bougie and my first impression. Since I have a downhill, this is a good opportunity to keep talking, even though I was gonna wait a little bit. Well, look at, this is so pretty. Oh. Wow, even though it's a burn zone, it's just gorgeous. Anywho, how did I meet Bird Call and Boss Bay? So, I don't know, there is always this thing where I remember the first time I see them, and it always seems before they remember meeting me. But I remember it was in Tehachapi, and we were about to walk up and start the hike out of Tehachapi, and I saw Boss Bay sitting on my left on the ground. I didn't pay attention where Bird Call was, but it was just Boss Bay somehow caught my attention. We kind of shared eye contact, and then I just kept walking. So that was the first time I remember seeing her. She doesn't remember that. Second time, which is when she remembers, is I was taking a break with this married couple, and I was waiting for Bougie because Bougie was behind me. He was, I don't know, I was just waiting for him, and then I was asking Boss Bay and Bird Call, hey, have you seen a guy in a Jolly Gear shirt? And they're like, yeah, he was laying on the ground on the phone. I was like, oh, okay. That was the second interaction. And then the third interaction was we were at a water source. It was the same day. And I was kind of hungry. It was just close to the end of the day, but I was at a water source. And I started cooking, and they were sitting there, and they looked like so tired, so exhausted. And I was just like, oh my gosh, they look done. So I'm just looking at them, and I'm going, are you excited for the Sierra? And they just look at me, and then they're like, oh, well, I mean, yeah, I guess, kind of. And then we just chatted a little bit. And then I told them, hey, there's a campsite with some pine needles. I love pine needles. I love camping on pine needles. So that's where I'm going. And then they were kind of thinking, oh, maybe that's where we'll go to. And then that was the fourth interaction. They came to the campsite where I was camping. And then we talked more. And then the next day, the fifth interaction is when we kind of just started hiking with each other. That was the day where Bougie and I had planned to do a lot less miles, but because we enjoyed being around Boss Bay and Bird Call, we kept hiking more. And that was the story since. They asked if we wanted to do the Sierra with them, and we were like, absolutely. And such a great connection. I do connect with Bird Call, of course, but it's Boss Bay that I really connect with. We have not a similar upbringing because I don't know if she talked about it, but she has somewhat of a religious upbringing, and I have somewhat the opposite of it. I have a very anti-religious upbringing. But both of our parents were more strict and such things. I'm not going to go into detail too much about it, but it kind of shaped us as humans. And so we have more of a connection with regard to kind of the mindset on how we were raised to look at the world. And Bird Call is just so nice. I've talked about him. Like, he's just such a good man. But yeah, it is Boss Bay who I connect with on a deeper level, for sure. That's snow, and there's a river under it, which is just so dangerous. Came from there. Ooh, chocolatey. River Crossin. I am currently in a restricted area something called Jefferson Park, something. And it's about restricted for 4 miles, meaning a PCT permit does not allow you to camp here. That's okay. I'm gonna walk right through. How did I meet Somewhere, the hiker? Somewhere is the person I've hiked around the longest on the PCT. She's the person I've spent the most amount of time together as well. I met her first on the downhill of Mount San Jacinto. And another hiker that I hiked with previously, she had an encounter with a snake. And I guess it was some sort of standoff. Anyway, as I understand, Somewhere helped her navigate around the snake. So this other hiker, her name was Fireball, walked up, told us about the snake, and in comes zooming Somewhere. She just zooms. She stops, she looks at us, and then she goes, I can walk ahead. I never really pay attention to snakes. And then we asked her what her name was, and she said Somewhere. And of course we asked her like 2-3 times because the name is so confusing. Anyway, then she kept walking, and I saw that she had an AT tag of this year. And I was like, there is no way that she had hiked already the entire AT. It was April. I mean, I guess she could have done it, but I was just like, why does she have an AT tag? So I did catch up to her around the bend, and then I was like, oh, let me confront her. And I was like, wow, you already hiked the entire AT? And she just stops, turns around, and says, half of it. Turns around and keeps running. I was like, oh, okay, I stand corrected. That was the first time I met her. The second time I met her was at a place called Joshua Inn. It was the day of the hot springs, and we had gone to the hot springs, Chap, Fireball, and Hammer, and I was just kind of over the hot springs, so I decided to keep going to Joshua Inn because I knew there would be food. And so I got to Joshua Inn, and after a moment I saw Somewhere, and I was thinking to myself, oh, there's that half AT hiker. That's all I thought. I didn't remember her name. So I got my food, and then I sat down on a table away from her, and she goes, you know, you can sit with us. She was sitting with another hiker. And I was like, okay, fine. And then I sat with them. And then we just kind of talked. That day she had thought about leaving Joshua Inn and keep hiking, because that's her thing. But then she didn't. We all camped together, and it was a really, really nice evening. Somewhere and I talked a lot that evening, and I felt like, wow, I really like this person. We exchanged phone numbers, and then the next day we got dropped off on trail, and then that was kind of it. I don't think I saw her like a few times on trail that day, but then she just kept going ahead. Fast forward to past Aqua Dolce, because that is where my originally trail family and I separated officially. We had separated before that, but that was the official breakup. No. Anyway, I had hiked for like a few days after that, and the reality of the fact that I was not going to have anybody for the Sierra really set in. I remembered Somewhere and how much I enjoyed being around her, and how I think of a strong hiker she was. And I texted her and asked her if she remembered me and if she would be interested to hike the Sierra together. And she responded and said she of course remembered me, and that if everything lined up, that would be a great idea. So we kind of discussed on where we would be able to catch up, and it was Tehachapi. Eventually I asked if she wanted to share accommodations in Tehachapi, and she agreed. And so that's the third time we, interacted. And then we hiked around each other because we knew that the Sierra was still about 150 miles away. So it was just kind of like the typical summer hiking where she is around but doesn't really camp near much. And then that's the story with regard to how we kind of started hiking together. You all know the rest. I mean, she's kind of in and out since Kennedy Meadow South. And yeah, she is the person that I've hiked around the longest, to spend the most amount of time with. I think she's a very lovely person. I definitely admire her, and I think she's a great person. So, yeah. It's raining. Well, that's not a pleasure because I'm going up a mountain and the mountain has some snow. So that's not an ideal situation. Rain gear goofing. Goofing that rain gear. Honestly, this looks scarier than the Sierra because you can't see anything. So I'm here in a helicopter. I feel like helicopters are almost like a stress. They create a stress response in hikers. So I don't know what this helicopter's about. Is it rescue or is it fire? So the helicopter was going zoop. Not sure what's going on. PCT Resort. It is 3:30. I found Sonic and we are hiking another 12 miles, probably. Because we've already hiked 19, 12 more. There were some notes in Far Out that say that there's trail magic. That'll be for tomorrow. But that means our mileage should be pretty cool. We'll get to Trail Magic tomorrow and then Timberline Lodge the day after. Walking back to the PCT.
How you doing?
Got Smokey chilling, saying no fires, please. And we've got Sonic the Hedgehog with Smokey the Bear. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I just came across a group of women hikers and they recognized me, a few of them. That was so cool, that was so cute. They're like, you inspired us to hike. That is probably the best compliment anybody can give me. When I have a person, doesn't matter what gender, tell me, you've motivated me to hike. That's all I want. That's what happened to me, right? Frozen from Outdoor Adventures motivated me. And guess what? I want to motivate others. So that was the biggest compliment I have ever gotten. So thank you, ladies. Y'all are awesome. That was so cool. I picked up 4.5 liters of water. My bladder has a hole in it, so I put duct tape on it a few days ago. So today is the test on whether it's gonna work. It's a very, very tiny hole. So it just sporadically leaks water. So hopefully the duct tape is gonna hold it. Hi, it is 7:15 and I have only 0.4 or 0.6, depending on which campsite we'll choose, left. That means I took 1.5 hours break at that resort. So that means I will have hiked 31.6 or 31.8, you'll see at the end of the video, in just 10 hours and 45 minutes, or really, let's say, in 11 hours. 31.6, 31.8 in 11 hours. That's pretty cool. Today was like a dreary day, very rainy. It reminded me of the AT, and cold too. I will be sleeping at 5,000 feet of elevation. I know some of you really would like to know these kind of things. And tomorrow is another day. What's really great is, I think we will have 38 miles to Timberline Lodge, which I wanted to get to by Wednesday noon, and today is Monday. That means if we do 30 miles tomorrow, we'll have only 8 miles to Timberline Lodge, but we can do less than that because we don't want to get there any earlier than lunch, because people have mentioned that the breakfast buffet is not that good anymore. So the lunch buffet, it shall be. But maybe we'll get there early and we'll do breakfast and lunch. I don't know. But I'll be hanging out there for a while. I didn't work this hard to not have a nice lunch buffet. It was a good day, dreary. I hope you enjoyed it. You got to know more of my first reaction and how I met my amazing family. And I miss them all very, very, very much. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.